Super Bowl champ back here as a volunteer quality control on our offense, and I'm gonna hit record, and then we'll get to the questions. So hold on one sec. Okay, we're happy to have CJ Anderson here for you guys. No real intro needed other than Super Bowl champ, former Cal player, who's back with our staff as a volunteer on our quality control staff for offense. So we wanted to open it up for questions. I'll go ahead and call on you guys. We'll start with Jeff Ferrato.
Hey, CJ, welcome back to Berkeley. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Jeff. Thank you, man. It means a lot.
Yeah. So take us through sort of, it seems like this is maybe something you had in mind even before you retired because the transition was pretty smooth. Take us through your thought process, why you wanted to do it, and kind of how you made it happen.
Well, 8 years in the league, I had fun. I looked at kind of, what I wanted to get into. I've always had a lot of coaches that was in the league, Coach Kubiak, Coach McVay, Coach Eric Strudersville, running back coach, Skip Pete, Wade Phillips, Jack Del Rio, a bunch of coaches who've always said they think I will be a great coach one day just because the type of player I was when I played. And, when we got done with Detroit last season, me and my family, we kind of sat down, played in 3 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, made it to a Pro Bowl, made enough money, as you can say. We thought about, is there anything else in the National Football League that I need to accomplish? And there was a couple things on that list that I probably felt like I wanted to accomplish, but, there was nothing like hard on guarantee, like if I was going to get that opportunity to accomplish that. So, we thought, why not help the younger generation and get into coaching?
When was the first time that coaching occurred to you that maybe you would want to do this with your life?
I mean, I've had moments when I was in the league, but I think the biggest moment to me, we were playing an NFC Championship game when I was with the Rams versus New Orleans Saints, and we're struggling. The crowd's loud, obviously pre-COVID, but the crowd was really loud, and we were kind of discombobulated on offense. And I just got to LA, and there's a hurry up thing that LA does that deals with certain calls. One word calls is everything. So it's just something I remember back from Peyton when we did in Denver. I gave that advice to Sean McVay. I told him, hey, let's go on tempo. Let's do this. I said it'll keep all of us. Cause I think we had 3 false start penalties back to back, like 3 in that drive. So I told Sean, hey, if we do this, it's something I remember from Peyton. But if we do this, at least we're all on the same page. We all know the snap count. We all know the plays, so we can come off the ball and do everything together. We did that for 2 drives straight, went down and get 3, and then we got down and got 7 the next drive, kind of settled the crowd down, and that kind of settled it in. And then when me and Sean talked on the plane, that's when it kind of hit like, hey, maybe you do have a knack for this one day.
So this isn't actually your first coaching assignment. It was that day, huh?
It was one of those days. I mean, when I was in Carolina, and even to this day, I'm glad my man's coming back. Obviously, you guys don't like him too well, but Christian McCaffrey, me and him talk still a lot. When I was over there in Carolina, backing him up, I was helping him a lot, just to better his game. It was his 2nd year at the time, and just seeing some of the things and some of the tips that he's using, and then the conversations we still have when it comes to game planning and stuff, still seeing him use some of those to make him successful is pretty good for me. So that's probably the very first time, but that Sean McVay kind of like solidified it for me.
Thanks, CJ.
Yeah.
Okay, Lorenzo Reyna from 24/7.
Oh, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, CJ. So Christian's good with me.
All good.
Yeah. So my question is, did you also had other coaching opportunities lined up, or was Cal the only one?
Now I could have coached anywhere, to be honest. And I could have been paid too, to be honest. I've also could have coached at any high school as a head coach. In California or in Texas, because that's where I was living. For me, it was more, I got bigger aspirations of being a coach, what I want to do in my life. I know, the good thing is I've had a little experience. I mean, it's not too much, but like 707 organizations that I helped out with relating to kids and doing those things, checking their grades. But the recruiting aspect was like humongous, something I had to learn. So I thought that's why this opportunity will be amazing for me, just to learn on that end. Another thing is, obviously, I work with Bill Musgrave. I had one of my best years under Bill. So I know me and Bill knows how I work. I guess the best way to say this is when you know that you're familiar with something, and obviously I was familiar with two different things: the offensive system that Bill is doing, and then obviously UC Berkeley, because I was a student athlete there at one point in my life. When you're familiar with things, it makes things a lot more easier to go into something. So I was more familiar and comfortable with those two to take this opportunity now to help me for my future goals than to take some of the things that was lined up for me.
So my next question is, what's your early thoughts on this Cal running back group right now, particularly guys like Chris Brown Jr., Marcel Dancy, who played at your junior college alma mater?
Yeah, the room right now is competitive, really strong. There's some, I think Coach Thompson, AT is doing a hell of a job with those guys in there. And then just me giving my input here and there when we're in meetings and things like that gives that an extra bump, or you can say extra edge. But the ultimate goal is to try to say, as I'm helping out the whole offense, even when I help out BT, obviously, we've been doing Bull Toller for forever, at least I have. But when you go around helping the offense in the whole, the goal is try to say the same thing exactly as what the coaches will say. Some of the kids will try to come be about my NFL experience. And what you try to do is bring that back to what is actually being coached and what is actually being said by their coaches. So they're not just all trying to grab information and listen to me only, if that makes sense. But as far as the room, I think the room is really strong. I like what CB and Marcel brings, and hopefully we can have them have successful years.
Okay, good. Lorenzo, anything else for now? Okay. We'll move on to Trace Travers from Rivals.
Hey, CJ, good to see you and good to have you back in the Bay Area.
Thank you, man.
What I wanted to ask was, first, what exactly does your role entail? What are you allowed to do as far as contact with the team, recruiting, all that stuff?
So as far as what I'm allowed to do, it's whatever they tell me to do within the parameters. I know right now, like as far as like being on the field and actually physically coaching, those things are not allowed to do, which is okay. I get to sit back and learn a lot from good coaches. I think there's a really strong offensive staff that Bill and Jay and Justin, they kind of like, put together, I guess you can say. But as far as what I'm allowed to do, I can have conversation with players like, off the field, in the meeting rooms and things like that. Try, to help them better their game generally. Nothing within the scheme, if that makes sense.
And are you allowed to have a role in recruiting, saying like talking to kids or something, or is that out the door?
I have no idea. I've not been told that. So your guess is as good as mine right now.
All right. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, CJ.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim McGill, questions for Jim?
Hey, CJ, great to see you back again. Welcome.
What's up, Jim?
So you have a real similar story to Marcel, growing up in Oakland, moving out to the Valley, sort of Northern Valley, and then back to Laney and over to Cal. Have you had a chance to talk with him recently or over the last year or two about the similarities in your experience? And can you reflect a little bit about what got you from there to here?
Well, I knew Marcel when he was at Laney. When I used to come back as a player, I would go to Laney. Obviously, Coach Beam has changed my life tremendously. And, it's funny to see what he did in Last Chance U. It's the same John Beam. The Beam y'all got to see on TV was the same Beam that cussed me out, too, here and there, But I knew Marcel at Laney when he was young, just a freshman. And just telling him about, me busting and Bart from Vallejo to Oakland, what it takes, the dedication, the classwork, the things that you have to do. So when that time came around, when Coach Beam told me he was getting ready to go to Cal, I was really excited, but I also told him about what that opportunity brings, what UC Berkeley brings outside of football as a whole. So, when me and Sale talk, it's more, different than the other backs in the room. It's more on a personal level, just because I've been knowing him since he was, somewhere between 17, 18 years old, and to see him to become to the young man he is today, and some of the resources that he took advantage of outside of football at UC Berkeley that we talked about, it's good to see that.
You coach kids too, like he does, right?
Yes, I do.
So you share a passion for teaching the youth too.
I just think, me and Marcel, we look at our situations, us growing up certain ways, very similar, single parent homes and things like that, inner city kids used to say. I just think when we look at us and, we've came from this point, eventually got to UC Berkeley. And then obviously myself, I got to play in the National Football League and make a successful career out of that. I think we look at all the youth, the inner city youth back in our respective hometowns. Hey, we were you once before. If we can do it, you guys can too. And hopefully, we can give you better resources than what we had growing up.
Thanks. And can you talk a little bit about your business interests? You've had your hand in a lot more stuff than a lot of NFL players do, keeping yourself busy and well-rounded. Can you talk a little bit about some of the outside stuff you had going on when you're in the NFL?
Well, yeah, not huge. I mean, the biggest thing, with my foundation, Dreams Never Die, because of Coach, who was kind of my mentor when I was at UC Berkeley, some of the relationships that I started when I was 20 years old, with DocuSign and LinkedIn and Google and Facebook and Twitch and YouTube and, a couple other down there in Silicon Valley, meet some of those execs and CEOs, has gave me a brighter perspective on working environment, how to work together, but then also how to bring our kids along, our youth along, to give them opportunities to be successful outside of football. So I took a heavily advantage of that. In 2015, after we won the Super Bowl right here in the Bay Area, took a heavy advantage of that, and those relationships who I still have. And I'm also glad I get to help some of these Cal students jump into the tech world if that's what they're interested in too.
Thanks.
I think Jeff Ferrato has another question for you, CJ.
Yeah.
Yes, CJ, you kind of alluded to your ultimate goal earlier, beyond coaching, I believe, but you didn't go into what it was. Is there something big out there that you're looking at for your future?
Well, in the coaching world, to be honest, I would love to run my own program one day. I would love to have an opportunity to run a program based off information that I have, X and O's, Y. As far as football, I'm not really worried about it at all. I've learned from a lot of great coaches and a lot of great players. I spent my off season with a lot of great coaches, X's and O's. I think with the opportunity here to help the ultimate goal is just how to connect, how to talk to kids, how to help kids when they're going through certain things. I understand that the times has changed. Back when I was a student athlete, our stipend check was X amount of dollars compared to what they're getting now. So life is a little better for them. But what I've noticed, and just with players around the league, and then when I used to come back to Cal, and when Daniel Lasco was there, and I used to talk to him and Darren Irvin and things like that, or I still talk to Coach Ron Good, even though he's on the dark side, which we talk about that all the time. But having those mentors that I had in my life, Coach Ron Good, Coach Ashley Ambrose, Coach Wes Chandler, who was at Cal when I was there, and then a guy like Coach putting me in position for life after football, even though I had dreams to go to the NFL. That's kind of something that I want to do, and that's something that I think that's the biggest, and it needs to be the most important thing of developing the young men into men, if that makes sense. We always hear about the first round picks or the second round picks, whether they're from Alabama or whether they're from Ohio State or Cal or whatever. But what you don't hear about is, how did the guy who did not want to play in the National Football League, like Chris Adcock, he's a doctor now in Texas. He played O-line for us at Cal. Those are just as good success stories as the NFL success stories too. And that's probably the ultimate goal with me.
So it would be to be a Division I head coach someday?
Right now it's head coach anywhere. It can be D2, it can be NAIA, it can be FCS, it can be D1, it can be Power 5.
Could it be Laney College?
It can be Laney College. It can be Laney College, and if the paths happen to drop in high school, which I could have took that now, it can be high school. So it's just trying to develop and get these kids to understand that there's more than football. We want to give them football. We want to give them opportunity, to reach some of the success and the highs that I personally have, and other players and other people that I know, who's going to help out. But however, it's also give them the opportunity that the DocuSigns, the Googles, the LinkedIn's, those companies out there does exist, for you, to live a successful or a sustainable life, when you get done playing football.
Thanks, CJ.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I think, does anybody have a final question? If you do, send me a chat. If not, we'll let CJ get out of here. Okay.